Moneyline Mateer is in the news. He is Venmoing his bookie after placing bets on college football games. Can you believe it? What are your thoughts about this John Mateer thing?
Blake, I've had a couple of different angles that I've looked at this. I really don't think that he was Venmoing a bookie. As somebody who I know that you were joking, and I want to be clear here for anyone who's maybe not familiar how something like this could even work. Definitely was not Venmoing a bookie.
Correct.
I am giving him the benefit of the doubt because I think that it's going to be really hard to prove that he did something wrong. I think that two things potentially happened here, or three things. He actually was goofing around like he claimed he was, which is very hard to believe because he put the specific damn game in the description of the Venmo transaction.
Less than 12 hours after it was concluded.
Yeah. Hard to sell that one, but anyone who's in their 20s knows that growing up, you put stupid things in your Venmo transaction. So who knows? Maybe it was a really specific, awful joke. The other thing that could have happened here, which is the most concerning if it is proven, he Venmoed a friend who has a bookie or was using a sports book to place a bet for him. I know people who do this all the time in a less illegal way where they know a friend who lives in a state where sports betting is legal. They don't want to go through an offshore book. They Venmo their friends to place bets for him. In this case, maybe he'd be hoping it's not trackable, him making a bet, but he, again, stupidly made it public on his Venmo. The third, and if this is the truth, and I think that this is the most likely, there should be no punishment for this. I really think, Blake, that he was just sitting on the couch with one of his teammates and said, I'll bet you $100 that USC beats UCLA. And that's what it was. Guys do that all the time in college. And when you're playing college football, it happens quite often. I don't think that this was that serious. I know that's still considered gambling, but there should be no real punishment if that's what is found and proven. I think that him trying to not double down, but doubt it as much as he is going to kind of hurt his case if there is an investigation.
There's a couple of things here. Number one, let's start off with I think the inevitable is going to happen. I don't know or think anything's going to come of it. And especially I don't think anything's going to come of it unless there's some really quick investigating going on here. That's number one. Number two, if the NCAA investigates it, John Mateer is going to be long gone from Oklahoma by the time that this is ended. They would have to make a pretty swift ruling. That's number one. I think he did do it. I can't prove it. I am completely speculating, and I'm alleging that I think that he did it. I'm giving an opinion because Joe, you and I are in the same realm and world and do all the same stuff, whatever. I know that you posted some of your funny transactions with your roommate, your college roommate, of just funny illegal activity. I think.
Yeah, that was when it was illegal activities, and then whenever we would pay our Cox bill, KOX, we would spell it Cox, COCKS.
Okay, that's a little too gay. Okay. Pause. Okay. However, Joe, I think there's something to be said in reference to him saying that less than 12 hours after the game ended. Yeah. Literally. Here's the truth. Joe, it actually happened within hours. So the question becomes, is it morally right? Is it legally right if you're on a college campus to be placing bets on other games? It is of my moral belief that I don't care if a player's betting on another game. What do I care? They have no impact. And truth be told, then you shouldn't let reporters who cover a team bet on the team that they cover because they know inside stuff more than maybe some of the inside people do. Because you talk to sources, you talk to coaches. Joe, we literally just got done talking about, not going to say what, where, when, how. There's a lot of quarterback battles going on around the country. We know some things that other people don't. Great for us. But we do know that. I think that it doesn't bother me in that realm. The question I have is was he doing it for himself? Because as petty as this sounds, I would rather know if he was cutting games, if he was doing something wrong. And an investigation doesn't mean that you did do anything wrong, but allegations are allegations. Now, I do think it's funny where this comes from, and I understand where this comes from. This comes from the University of Texas and their fans going on this dude's Venmo, finding crazy stuff, and posting it on Twitter. But, Joe, you got to be a little bit more aware. And I know that college kids do stupid stuff. But let me just tell you this. Him putting out a statement and everybody taking it as gospel on three, calling people squares because there are some people like, well, hey, did he do anything wrong here? We need to take a step back and ask ourselves the question, did he do anything? Is there anything there? Because, Joe, God forbid you don't investigate this or you don't look into this. Oklahoma said it was over because he gave he gave a statement. That's not the best thing for your university. But listen, the bottom line remains here for me. I don't think the kid will ever do that again, and I don't think you should be punished for something that could have ultimately been a joke. But we need to find out if this is ultimately a joke. Because, listen, I will tell you in a previous life of mine, when you were taught in the decade long that I spent in that past life, when you have 1 + 1, you don't assume that it's 3. You look and make sure that it's 2 every single time so that you'd make the correct decisions. The bottom line for me is that I don't think you should be suspended. I don't think you should get kicked off. I think you should play the season. But there's also a part of me that asks the question, was he doing something that he wasn't supposed to do? Because if you're going to do it on Venmo, were you doing it somewhere else?
I think the way that you're framing it is the correct way with the bit of he shouldn't get suspended. Oklahoma should not be pressured. The SEC should not pressure him to suspend him. This is incredibly different from what happened with Iowa State, which was the most recent big example of this, where sportsbooks alerted or were the ones who noticed this and then decided to issue a concern and a red flag. This was not that. It was a Venmo transaction that a bunch of people on a Monday night went and found. That was what created this. So there's not really a string of real proof like in the Iowa State situation. This is also part of the reason why sports gambling should be legalized nationwide and why I've been an advocate for it, because it removes the ambiguousness in the states where it's not legal. Because a lot of people, as I mentioned at the beginning here, go through a number of different routes in order to be able to place bets. I think, though, that being said, Blake, I'd like to reiterate, I do not think that this was going through a bookie or somebody placing a bet for him, because if he was placing a bet through an actual sports book or a bookie, he would have paid that money ahead of time. He would not have paid after the game had happened. I really do think it was the situation of him sitting on the couch with his friends and offering to pay for beer money or something along those lines. I'll bet you $500. I'll bet you $100 that USC wins this game while he's sitting in it with a group of people. It doesn't make any sense to me that he would pay after the fact, after somebody placed a bet for him through a sports book or through a bookie.
I got an easier scenario. You ready?
Okay.
Hey, bye week. Hey, guys, offense is coming over to our apartment. We're going to order some pizza, and we're going to watch USC versus UCLA. Everybody needs to pitch in to pay for everybody to get pizza, and he Venmos and just puts UCLA USC. Like for pizza. Something as simple. Like it could be as simple as, hey, it was, this is what was going on. This is what we were doing. Here's the thing. You didn't tell me in a statement what it was about. Now, I understand you don't want to fight legalities and put a word and statement out there so that people can pick holes in it. Okay. Yeah. You don't want to do that. I understand that. But Joe, there also comes a point in time where I think of like Pete Rose and him saying, I want to be acquitted for all the things I know I didn't do. And Rob Manfred came out there and said, listen, we got an FBI investigation right here. Pete, don't do this to yourself. Pete Rose said, yeah, I'm going to do it to myself. Manfred slaps it on the desk, and he did bet against his team. He bet against his team when he was the manager. And all this time, everybody was defending him, saying, oh, he betted for his team. He bet for his team because he kept saying that. No, he didn't. He didn't. And now nothing ever came of Pete Rose from a legal aspect to that regard, not to a high level. But I think that there needs to be something. And I gotta throw this out there. I think for all sports, in all games and all athletes, no matter if you're betting on another game or not, you have to pay the penance. You can't place bets because you start getting into a fine line, Joe, when you say, well, you can do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'll give you an example. I was sitting outside of LSU's practice the other day writing notes. We have a great partner in FanDuel. Every day you and I come in here and we write down on our notepads and we get our notes and we put odds for people and things so that we can mention our good friends over at FanDuel. Joe, I try to get on the app to see what odds were on FanDuel and prep for our show waiting before practice started. I couldn't get on the app on campus. Couldn't do it. It kept kicking me out. Good. I'm glad it happened. For me, I didn't even think about it, right? I'm just prepping for a show. But it comes down to the point in time where I do think that there's a very fine line. And I do think that, listen, allegations are allegations for a reason. And I make this dumb analogy. Just because someone gives a statement doesn't mean they're innocent. I didn't have sexual relations with that woman, says Bill Clinton. Newsflash, he had sexual relations with that woman. So it just comes down to a point where people will lie to save their own ass. Why wouldn't they? But there comes a point in time, if you're breaking laws and you're doing things, I want to know, I don't think that you should just sweep this under the rug. It's the same thing with Michigan in some regards, and we talked about that a lot. You can't just if you're Tony Petitti, say, oh, this should all be over with. No, we need to find out everything that went on. Can we find out everything that went on and we make a right judgment on this? The kid could be as innocent as a pure white lamb. But until that day comes, I'm not just going to wash my hands like I'm Caesar and say I'm done with this. I'm personally not. Now, before Oklahoma fans absolutely kill me, because I know that you're going to be in here killing me, I have him as a long shot to win the Heisman Trophy in literally 5 minutes when we talk about it. I think the kid's talented, but it does not mean that I don't think it should be looked into. So that's my 2 cents.
I think it's completely fair. Just to reiterate, I have no qualms with the way that you're framing this. I didn't like that there were some folks that were just completely dismissing this. And I know that I tweeted, hey, in his defense, here's, as you mentioned earlier, the screenshot of
you were just saying history. Don't jump to conclusions.
Well, it was that, but I also wanted to take it. I knew that my roommate Sean and I back in college in 2019 had some funny transactions between one another. So I thought that it would just be funny to show, hey, this is what 2 idiot college football players at the time were doing. But at this, I think anyone who was trying to completely absolve him, I think there's some sort of agenda. Somebody asked to defend him. Like, there's no way that any of those people actually truly believe that Mateer didn't do anything wrong. It is so comically specific. At the same time, again, like, I do know some people who have a sense of humor like this that would go as far as like, I'm going to put the specific game. He might have, to what you just said, might have just been sitting there ordering pizza with his buddies and had a couple of beers, thought it'd be funny if he put down sports gambling. I really think it just needs to be clarified here. Do we really think he's that stupid? That's the biggest thing with me, all this. Do we think that he's that stupid if he was actually straight up orchestrating, placing a bet through a sports book, through a bookie, through a friend, that he would just do it this openly, that he wouldn't think that no one would check, that it wouldn't get seen? Is he really that dumb that he thinks it's private and that it's unviewable? I don't know. That's the only part about this that I keep coming back to, where there's no way he's that dumb.
Joe, people who break the law do dumb stuff all the time. I mean, I wish that there could be a day where I could just tell a story. You know, I got like 3 more years before I can come out here and really tell stories of my past life.
That's fair.
Yes, they are dumb. People are stupid, myself included. I mean, again, but here's the thing. Last thing, it could be that. Can we find out that it's that? Can we just find it? Can we just find out? Yeah. Hey, guess what? Knock, knock, knock. College Sports Commission. What's up?
Well, wait. I don't know if That's not something this is an NCAA matter and it's not a college sports commission.
2022, he could be receiving NIL deals. If it falls under an NIL guideline and he's placing bets, why not?
Well, because I don't think it would. I think.
Okay. NCAA, you want some more credibility built back? Knock, knock, knock. Let's roll.
Well, that's the key piece there is I do think that the NCAA wants to flex its muscles, and I think that it wants to lay a hammer down if it gets a chance to.
I think they're going to do it to Michigan.